The Golden One claims a vacant throne. The crown of light will bring only darkness.
Blizzard has long teased Alliance faction division, and now we can see it coming. And going back to that quote, the crown may well have a double meaning, one that we've pretty much all missed and one that may be disastrous. So, while we're working on how to defeat interdimensional chandeliers, you can check out the new MKB HD class on today's sponsor, Skillshare, where the first 1,000 to use my link will get a free 1-month trial of Skillshare. Now, Skillshare is of course packed with thousands of incredible classes across so many topics. Design, writing, illustration, productivity. You know, they're pretty well named. Do you want a new skill? It's the place to go. Of course, today we're looking at this. YouTube Success. Script, Shoot, and Edit by Marques Brownlee. Now, unsurprisingly, right, the largest tech person in YouTube also knows what he's doing. And you will learn a lot about the video process from him. It really breaks things down nice and simple while sprinkling in all sorts of great tips. Look, just check it out. This is the process of one of the most successful people on the platform, so there is a lot to learn and seriously, a lot of your own time to save if you're in this space. Skillshare is where you can get that. And so much more. You want to learn photography, writing, productivity? You can do that all. The first 1,000 people to use my link will get a free 1-month trial. So hit up that link down below in the video description and pinned comment. A big thank you to Skillshare for being a channel sponsor for so much time. And let's get stuck in. Right, if we are to understand why and how the Alliance could go a little bit wrong, we've got to understand their top man, Turalyon. Now, I'll keep this to what is important. So, way back, during the Second War, Turalyon was a high-ranking priest, playing a very instrumental role in forming the Alliance of Lordaeron, even becoming one of the first 5 Knights of the Silver Hand, along with Uther and Tyrion. Faith was hard for him, though, until he realized that the light was wielded by beings of Azeroth, and that creatures that don't belong in Azeroth, such as the orc, can therefore be struck down with impunity. Quite the realization. While he would, of course, later ally himself with aliens, and of course the orcs were certainly rather evil at that time, pretty extreme way to think about things. Much later, he was called to Outland by a luminous crystalline figure. Yes, the Naru took note. Ner'zhul's portal disaster, of course, ended their campaign. Turalyon and Illyria should have died, but Lothraxion, the Light Dreadlord, saved them. Now, I want you to remember the Dreadlord spy report, and, of course, what it said about the Light, where it said that they had literally infiltrated the Light, the Dreadlords. So it's interesting that it was Lothraxion who saved Turalyon and recruited him into the army of the Light. Now this is where Turalyon's life gets truly bizarre, because the next 1,000 years are consumed by war, because from his perspective, 1 year, well, 1 year for us, ends up being about 50 for him in the Twisting Nether. In those first few years, he proves himself to Xera, he's elevated to Exarch, and he is Lightforged. A process that literally leaves him immortal. He is an immortal being literally infused with the light. He's like a light space marine. Later, during a mission to the Emerald Star, that of course we now know as Argus, he and Illyria got into some demon trouble. Trouble that she saved them from with Void Rifts. Rifts that caused the Lightforged Turalyon extreme pain. Dismayed as he was, he knew that she meant well, even when she had to leave through another Void Rift. Of course, she knew that Xera would never accept her. Of course, that's correct. 500 years later, then, the now High Exarch Turalyon almost falls to an assassin. Illyria saves him. Her reward, though, is imprisonment at the hands of a rather furious Xera. Yes, as the Dreadlord spy report says, the light is singular in its purpose, adherent to a linear path. Not much room for the likes of Illyria. Of course, in patch 9.1, Mal'Ganis reveals that Argus was all part of the Dreadlord plan. So with Lothraxion recruiting Turalyon and kind of leading him to Argus and being part of the Army of the Light's successful victory, I think the plot thickens. Okay, Legion then. We all know the story. Zero tries to force Illidan, Illidan defends himself, and Turalyon tries to kill Illidan. Pretty extreme, especially given how clearly evil Zero was acting in that moment. Not ideal, and hardly the only flash of extremism we're going to get from Turalyon. You know, a guy who's been literally fighting war for over 1,000 years, who has been remade in the light by an extreme Naru, and who's probably been manipulated by vampire demons. But somehow, it can actually get worse. Now for Battle for Azeroth, where things get a bit worse. Would you like to know what happens when Turalyon meets the now undead Archbishop Foul? He says that Foul has blasphemed, and that if there is anything left of his old friend, the Turalyon would kill him in mercy. Pretty extreme reaction there, Mr. Turalyon. Now, Turalyon did end up seeing the light in Foul, right? Even in spite of his undead nature. Turalyon was able to see the light and understand what that meant. But damn, I would say that initial reaction tells us a lot. Now in Battle for Azeroth, he pledges the Army of the Light, who he leads, to the Alliance. Not only are they light-charged super soldiers, basically a squad of space marines from 40k, they also control the Vindicar, something that is powered by, to take us back, the crown of the Triumvirate, a crown of light. Do you remember that Il'gynoth quote? We'll get to that. Fast forward to Stromgarde. And the extremism of Turalyon is clear. I mean, just listen to the man.
Soldiers of the Alliance, today we reclaim the noble city of Stromgarde from the monstrous horde. For the Alliance! Indeed it should, Lady Liadrin. I look forward to enacting justice on a misguided paladin of the horde. The light is with us, Rokan. We fear no shadows. I've won and lost thousands more battles than you've ever seen, Eitrig. And this battle is far from lost. The light is at my side. Horde invaders with a paladin in command? What has this world come to? You have been judged. Your fate has been decided, purified.
Sounds rather angry, doesn't he? You know, bit of a hawk. Sure, there's some people who are great for war, but I think we all would agree that you can't let that rhetoric be your policy, right? So he's a great warrior, but is Turalyon really a great head of state? Is that what you want your head of state to be saying? Well, this will come up later. First, though, I've got some more extreme behavior for you. Our mild character assassination of Turalyon continues with the novel Shadows Rising. The Fourth War's End marked the beginning of the Sylvanas manhunt. To handle this, Turalyon was granted the title of Lord Commander of the Alliance Forces. Yep, the army is his, and do remember that canonically, the Alliance exited the Fourth War like a bit stronger than the Horde. Now still, Sylvanas was Turalyon's first job, and bringing Illyria along for the ride, he began the search, eventually coming upon Horde refugees. And sensing that the refugee leader knew a bit more than he was letting on, the pair tortured using light and void. And later, they follow up on a lead that they extract from the refugees, and again they torture this lead, where Turalyon bound him with the light while Illyria invaded his mind. But bad news. Jaina walked in this scene. She, rightly, was not a fan. Remember, Jaina is a character we quest with. Jaina is a character that we like. So the character that Blizzard overtly is having us, the players, being buddied up to, palled up to, is shown to disapprove of Illyria and Turalyon, or at least their behavior here. Not that our dynamic duo got it, because in the novel, basically, Illyria kind of just thinks, oh, Jaina, she's going to go back to Stormwind and tattle on us. So, enhanced interrogation, check. Warhawk? Well, listen to this. So later on in the book, Mathias Shaw is taken prisoner by the Zandalari, and rightly so, because sure, he was there spying on Sylvanas loyalists, but from the Zandalari perspective, you've got the spy master of Stormwind snooping around your back door. Of course you're going to have to take him in for questioning. Now, when Turalyon finds out about this situation with Shaw, what does he immediately do? He calls for war. Jaina cools him down. So, war averted, but the point stands. He's a total war hawk. Maybe I know why Francis Townsend has joined the company. So, what we've learned from this rapid fire, and I guess a bit specific look at Turalyon's light history is pretty much this. The dude's clearly biased. He gets violent pretty damn quick. He is ready to get hardcore. And now he has true power. Turalyon is the regent and protector of the realm, fully supported by the nobility of Stormwind. After this happened, we see him musing on how in the past he helped a young Varian secure his throne, but that now he is keeping that throne secure for Varian's son. Before, of course, thinking that with there being victory at Stromgarde, perhaps there could be other holdings of the Old Alliance to secure. Old Alliance, what does that mean? Well, it means Tirisfal, it means Altaric, and also Kalthalas, because those are all right now under Horde control. And if you think he wouldn't fight a light-wielding Blood Elf Paladin called Liadrin, well, remember how it went down between him and Liadrin in the Battle for Stromgarde in Battle for Azeroth. Not only does he control the most powerful army in Azeroth, he also has his own personal army, the Army of the Light, and the super weapon that comes with them. That just means that Turalyon in a way could have a gun to everyone's head. When we hear the Golden One claims a vacant throne, I think it's easy to see how Turalyon's Ascent fits that bill. But what then of the other part of that line? Well, I'm going to don the tinfoil because this is where it gets a little speculative and a bit conspiratorial. Big speculation time. Many people simply think that the Crown of Light is just the Stormwind crown, the crown of the king, Anduin's crown. Could be, yeah. But what about a more literal crown of the light? What about the crown of the triumvirate? Here's the deal. There used to be a quest by that name in patch 7.3. Basically, the text, this specific text, did not make it through the PTR. It was different on live. But the PTR text is interesting because in it, Velen tells us that the crown of the triumvirate was created to, and I quote, spread light's touch to all. We, of course, later install the crown onto the Vindicar, drastically increasing its power. That crown, a literal crown of the light, is currently in the possession of Turalyon, the Golden One who did indeed claim a vacant throne. Now look, today's video does not count on this being true, but it's a tantalizing what if, I think we can all agree. Now, let's go back to reality with Stormwind's Spymaster. Simply put, Mathias Shaw is no fan of Turalyon. Just listen.
King Greymane, you shouldn't remain out in the open like this. You're too tempting a target.
If Sylvanas had wished to capture me, she would have done so along with Anduin. No, she wanted to leave me behind, to torment me with the loss of yet another of our king.
Still, we need you in the throne room. There are matters of state that must be overseen until the king's return.
Anduin entrusted Turalyon with command of our military forces. The Stormwind nobles support him serving as regent and protector of the realm.
I don't question the High Exarch's ability to defend the Alliance. But as a king yourself, don't you think you should...
You and Turalyon need to safeguard our citizens from the return of the Scourge. I need to focus on doing whatever I can to find Anduin and the others.
Yes, Your Majesty.
You have to remember that when this bit of dialogue took place, Turalyon's role in the Alliance was a totally settled matter. Yet even with that being so, Shaw questions it to Gen. Sure, he knows that Turalyon is a strong military leader, someone who'll be great in the front lines, leading the troops. But if you read in between the lines with Shaw, it's pretty damn clear he thinks that Turalyon wouldn't make a good king, and that a king should sit atop the throne, like Gen. Now, let's talk about all the ways that this could go wrong. And there's some new information about Anduin that I think really juices up this point. Well, the simple one first. Internal strife. Just like how the Horde fractured under Garrosh, the Alliance could do so under Turalyon. As for how, well, it depends on the fate of Anduin. If he, like his father, is just AWOL for a bit, then, when he comes back, maybe he's going to come back in a manner that lessens his legitimacy. If that is the case, expect trouble. And guess what? Blizzard have actually teased that. At the end of patch 9.1, Anduin talks of how each time the jailer dominates his will and takes control of him, he feels like he loses a bit of himself. What do we just see with Anduin? He walks into that portal. Who is Anduin going to be by the time Shadowlands is over? And is the man who returns still going to be one who the Stormwind nobility really want to be on the throne? Because Anduin is a hereditary monarch. And sure, basically control of the Alliance defaulted to him in a way, but he's not in the strongest position. And if you are a student of history, you will know that, oh yeah, great, you're king because your dad's no longer alive. It's not always the most stable position, is it? So we can't expect trouble. I mean, even looking at our characters, Gen is still furious at the Horde. Many of the Night Elves are furious at the Horde as well, even if their leader has chosen renewal over vengeance. I mean, what will happen if an imprisoned Sylvanas returns to Azeroth? How the hell are the victims of the war going to react to that? Looming over all of this is then what I call the lie of the Fourth War. Because to say that the Horde was merely led astray by a bad leader, and that, you know, she's gone so it's now all okay, I think that is to forget that many members of the Horde actively, canonically speaking, chose to join up. Nobody really stopped Sylvanas. I mean, not when they could have, right? The whole just following orders defense isn't super strong. So in a world where this piece can be criticized, and you have Gen being a warhawk, you have Turalyon being a warhawk, you have Illyria probably backing him up, and also her being juiced up in the void. Oh, and then also, there's a political group that almost all of us have forgotten, and it's pretty important. Did you forget about the Scarlet Brotherhood? Most people do, and I wouldn't blame anyone for it, because we only found out about them via a pamphlet in Battle for Azeroth. TLDR, right? They claim to have the true heir to the Lordaeron throne, and basically any form of Sylvanas redemption arc would play straight into their false narrative of Anduin and Sylvanas basically collaborating. Now, they are a group who in their letters support Gen, but only as a, sort of begrudgingly, as an interim king. But Turalyon, though? A man of Lordaeron reforged in the light? I mean, if you have Scarlet in the name of your organization, you're going to see a light extremist who, you know, he hated the orcs, he defended Lordaeron. He's going to be your man. You know that they and many of Lordaeron's humans would support Turalyon. Hell, I mean, who do they want to be their king? Some, maybe from their perspective, some flowery southerner from Stormwind? Or a real hard bastard who fought 1,000 years of war and is just a true Lordaeron man? Think about the propaganda. I mean, hell, those in Stromgarde, they're going to remember Turalyon's role in their liberation and in the war. He's a war hero. So what happens if the Brotherhood and the humans of Lordaeron back up Turalyon? If the Stormwind House of Nobles maybe thinks that Anduin is, well, I mean, in one way, just compromised because of all the stuff that's happened with Zovaal. Or maybe they just think he's a weak, soft leader because maybe he tries to plead for some clemency and understanding with Sylvanas. If that happens, Anduin could lose the nobility, and Turalyon has the military. It could go badly. There are so many ways in which the Alliance could implode. For another one, King Taranis' crown was recently found by Flynn and Mathias. I'm pretty sure the Scarlet Brotherhood would be interested in getting that. But of course, things could get a lot worse. Okay, imagine this. Xera arrives on Draenor early. The Draenei welcome her with open arms, and they win the planet. And instead of the Horde emerging from the dark portal in Warcraft 1, it's the Army of the Light, bolstered with orc converts and the might of the not genocided Draenei civilization. If that was Warcraft 1, the Warcraft IP would be pretty different. Just that it wouldn't have happened. Because in our timeline, Velen, one gifted with foresight, would have seen the potential evil in such a path. So what then if Velen wasn't there? What if he died? Well, luckily for us, that scenario has already played out, just not on our Draenor. Because AU Draenor's Velen sacrificed himself. And with his death, the Draenei leadership defaulted to the Exarchs. Yrel rose to the top, and when the Prime Naru arrived, she joined fully. Where Velen would use his gift and his wisdom and would question things, Yrel signed up and she launched a holy war. That war will come for us, and there's every chance that Turalyon would welcome her with open arms, a sister from another Army of the Light, all united under the light. What about the Sunwalkers, you might say? Just look at Battle for Azeroth Stromgarde, where Turalyon was more than happy to slaughter those who he thought were misguided paladins. Not only would this story be the ultimate Azerothian light versus light battle, it would also be a banger of a Horde versus Alliance story. One where finally the Alliance players get to feel how the Horde ones did through Garrosh and Sylvanas. Just think of the coalitions. Anduin, inspired by Saurfang, along with his mentor Velen, lead a light reformation party against the extremists who control much of Stormwind's military, the might of the AU Dranic civilization, and the disaffected humans of Lordaeron who have had enough of this shit. Hell, this would even work as an Alliance and Horde versus light extremist expansion. It would be a tough time for Khadgar too, maybe even forced to fight against his old friends. And as we covered last week on the channel, Khadgar almost certainly knows of the Dreadlord plot. He therefore will know that Lothraxion actually serves Sire Denathrius, or I guess with some of the more recent lore revelations, probably still the Jailer. Then you've got Illyria and Arator. How are they going to deal with this? Because the Light hates Illyria. Yrel will want to kill Illyria. What does Arator do? Does Arator ultimately decide to defend his mum? Maybe Yrel kills him? Who knows? But I think you can just see how much potential there is here, both for characters and for the state of the world. Cosmic forces, the fallout of a war, fresh geopolitics. You know what? Sounds like a pretty banging mix to me. I wouldn't mind a quick breather of an expansion, maybe, some time spent rebuilding. Because I do think that fighting to save the world is cool, but I think it's a bit less cool when the world is still a mess from the last time somebody tried to take it out. So let us chill, let us rebuild. And then, when the time's right, and it's time for a big Azerothian threat, let the Alliance implode a bit. Yeah, let Yrel go through that portal. Can you imagine the BlizzCon cinematic? When we see the dark portal roar into life, you hear the angelic hymns of the Naru, those noises reverberating through the blasted lands. The sky darkens, and against that you just see this army of the light coming through. Got to admit, it would be pretty big. That's it. That's it for me. I hope you enjoyed today's video, a video that's really just taking the sort of route of, okay, Turalyon, there is a timeline where he could be a problem. Let's double down and have some fun. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you are hyped for the fun future things that could happen once we're finally no longer in the Shadowlands anymore, because, oh my god, I'm very sick of the Shadowlands vibe, to be honest with you. And can you tell I'm talking about a lot of Azerothian things these days? Yeah, all right. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you in the next one.